The loud music, the white and gold lights reflecting off the mansion's windows, and the warm scent of Christmas gave the party that perfect glow, perfect for everyone, except for the black boy standing in the corner holding a cheap soda cup while trying to hide his torn Nike sneakers that couldn't take another step. The rich kids surrounded him like birds waiting to pounce, pointing at the hole in his shoe and laughing loudly, so loudly it seemed to cut through the air, illuminated by the 12-meter-tall tree decorated with red ribbons and glittering ornaments. One of the girls, blonde, with blue eyes gleaming with childish malice, mocked him, saying that not even Santa Claus would want someone so poor at the party, while one of the boys secretly took a picture to post later. The boy took a deep breath, trying not to cry, and lowered his head, feeling the weight of all the laughter falling on him like cold snow entering his chest. Nobody there imagined who he was. Nobody there had any idea why those destroyed sneakers were at that millionaire's party. But what nobody, absolutely nobody, knew that night was that that boy carried a secret capable of turning the entire Christmas upside down. Before we delve into this amazing story, tell me which city and state you're watching from. Leave a comment and I'll reply with gratitude. And while you're at it, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and like this video. We want to share more stories like this. The mansion's main room looked like it came straight out of a luxurious postcard. White and gold lights cascading down garlands, a Christmas tree so tall it almost touched the glass ceiling, enormous presents wrapped with glittering ribbons, waiters circulating with crystal trays, and a children's choir singing near the lit fireplace. The floor reflected the lights like a polished lake, and the people, all impeccably dressed in shades of red and blue, seemed to parade through a scene too perfect to have any cracks. But there, on the very night when everything should have been beautiful and harmonious, lay an exposed wound in the form of a 12-year-old black boy standing near the dessert table, holding a glass of soda while trying to appear invisible. His old Nike sneakers, with the sole almost detached and the side torn, made each step a challenge, and the more he tried to hide one foot behind the other, the more he drew the attention of those who were there, only to look down on him. The rich kids started the cruel cycle right at the beginning of the party. First, there were discreet giggles, whispered comments behind their hands, looks of disdain as if his mere presence marred the impeccable decorations. Then came the more direct remarks, laden with that arrogance that only those who have never suffered learn to reproduce. One of the girls, blonde with turquoise eyes, pointed at his shoe and shouted loud enough for half the party to hear, "Guys, look at this! It looks like he pulled the shoe out of the trash." The group burst into laughter. Another boy, with red suspenders and his hair combed back like a little prince, came closer, observed the torn side and said, "I don't think even a charity gift can save this." The laughter echoed through the hall as the boy took a deep breath, trying to swallow the tears that insisted on coming. He didn't want to be there. Not like that. Not at that party where every detail screamed wealth, power, and perfection. Everything he wasn't. His t-shirt, even though blue, didn't have the elegant cut of the other children's. His pants, though clean, were already a little worn at the knees. And his sneakers. Those sneakers were almost a symbol of his life. Very worn, very damaged, but still standing, still fighting to keep going. His mother spent days saving up pennies to buy those used Nikes at a community bazaar. It was the best she could give, and for the boy, those sneakers were more than just footwear. They were love, they were effort, they were everything they had. But in that mansion, with loud music and sparkling crystals, nobody could see that. At a certain point, the children really started to surround him. One of them nudged his shoulder lightly, just to mark him as a target. Another came close and kicked the tip of his shoe, making the sole lift even higher. The boy took a step back, instinctively protecting his foot, until he ended up leaning against the wall, next to the giant tree. The children continued to tease, taking pictures, pointing, laughing. And while all this was happening, the adults watched from afar, some pretending not to see, others murmuring that he shouldn't be here, and others simply turning their faces away because it was easier to ignore the injustice than to interrupt the millionaire's perfect party. The boy gripped the glass tightly in his hands, trying to maintain his composure. He wouldn't cry there, not in that place where any tear would be just another reason for them to laugh at him. Instead, he took a deep breath and repeated to himself the words his mother always said, "You are worth more than they think, much more." But at that moment, surrounded by arrogant faces and malicious smiles, it was hard to believe it. Shame burned his face. His heart felt like it was pounding in the pit of his stomach. He felt he didn't belong in that world, and that perhaps he never would. Then something unexpected happened. A large hand touched his shoulder. It wasn't aggressive, it wasn't harsh, it was firm and gentle at the same time. The boy turned quickly, startled, and saw a tall man with discreet gray hair, a perfect navy blue suit, light eyes, and a serious expression. He held a glass of wine in one hand and had a bearing that immediately silenced the room. He was the owner of the mansion, the millionaire whom everyone there respected, feared, or flattered. The man who transformed any environment simply by entering. But at that moment, the boy didn't understand whether that was good or bad. The millionaire looked at him, then at the circle of children whose expressions suddenly changed completely. Malice turned to silence, arrogance to fear, courage to cowardice. They took a step back, shrugging their shoulders as if they were too small in his presence. The man took a deep breath, looking at each of them with a gaze that was enough to bring order to any room. The boy, on the other hand, felt his heart race not from fear, but because there was something strange in that look, something that seemed familiar, as if the millionaire was seeing much more than just those torn sneakers or simple clothes. The music continued, but softly. The choir sang in the background. Snow fell outside, reflecting the white light that streamed through the giant windows. The hall was perfect. But at that moment, everything seemed to have stopped just for that encounter. The millionaire bent down slightly, getting to the boy's level, examining every detail of his worn sneakers, his restrained expression, his hands that trembled only slightly. He said nothing. Not yet. He only observed. And this silent observation made the boy feel something strange, as if someone, for the first time that night, was truly seeing who he was and not what he was wearing. After long seconds, the millionaire stood up, took a deep breath and placed his hand on the boy's back, signaling that he wanted him to stay by his side. The adults began to murmur. The children moved even further away, now afraid of a possible scolding. And the boy, not understanding anything at all, was led by the millionaire to the center of the hall, where the enormous tree shone with warm lights as if it were illuminated only for him. And it was only there, standing before that entire room, surrounded by gazes that until a few minutes before had been full of contempt, that the boy felt the first sign that something on that Christmas night was about to change, and change completely. Because there was something in the millionaire's hands, discreetly hidden behind his body, something he held with such care that it seemed almost sacred, something that, when revealed, would make every cruel laugh at that party freeze in the air like snow frozen in time. And although the boy didn't yet know it, the truth that was about to come would be too big for his small heart, too strong for his humble past, and too unexpected for the clear eyes of that crowd. Because something that night was not a coincidence. Something at that party had been planned. Something in that meeting of totally different worlds had a purpose, and he was about to find out which one. The entire room seemed to hold its breath as the millionaire walked with the boy toward the center of the party, as if each step were a silent announcement that something grand was about to happen. The golden lights of the giant tree reflected on the polished floor like fallen stars, and the clear eyes of those present followed that movement with a mixture of discomfort, curiosity, and in some cases pure fear that the situation would become too public. The children who had mocked the boy retreated to their parents, trying to appear invisible, but shame began to paint their faces, as if they sensed that the night would not end as they had imagined. The boy, on the other hand, walked with hesitant steps, unsure whether to look at the floor, at the children, or at the millionaire who guided him firmly. The gentle hand on his back was the only thing preventing his body from trembling. It was strange. There was kindness there. A kindness he didn't know how to receive. When they stopped before the immense Christmas tree, the millionaire made space among the people, causing the guests to form a wide circle, creating the feeling that everyone was there to witness something almost ceremonial. The children's choir stopped singing, the waiters slowed down, and even the small children were silenced by their own parents. The atmosphere changed completely, from a noisy and luxurious party to a tension so thick it seemed it could be cut with one's hands. The boy felt his heart racing. He didn't know if it was a punishment, an exposure, or something worse. He felt his throat dry up. He felt the air grow heavy. The millionaire turned to him, kneeling slightly to match his height, and looked directly into his eyes. Dark, deep, frightened, yet incredibly strong eyes. That look wasn't one of pity. It wasn't judgmental. It was almost recognizing, as if their lives had crossed paths before, even without knowing it, as if something invisible connected them. It was then that the millionaire pulled something from the inside pocket of his suit. An old, sealed envelope, yellowed at the edges. When he opened it, there was a folded photograph and a document that seemed far more important than any expensive gift at the party. He took a deep breath, stood slowly, and turned to the crowd, holding the photograph against his chest as if protecting something sacred. "First of all," he said, his strong voice echoing throughout the room, "someone here needs to learn that character has no color, no price, and much less is it measured by a pair of sneakers." Silence fell. The boy felt his legs tremble. The children who had humiliated him recoiled even further, clutching their parents' clothes, while the uncomfortable parents looked away. The millionaire continued, "And tonight, on this Christmas night, I need to reveal a truth I've waited far too long to share." He looked at the boy, a deep look full of feeling, a look the boy had never received from anyone in his life. That look said, "You matter. You always have." The millionaire held up the photo, showing it to the entire room. It was an image of a young black woman, smiling at the camera while holding a small baby. The guests exchanged confused glances. The boy, upon seeing the photo, felt his world spin. He recognized that face. Not completely, but there was something familiar in the sweet expression, the sparkle in her eyes, the shape of her smile. "This woman," the millionaire continued, "was the best person I've ever known. She saved my life when I was young, took care of my family when no one else cared, and when she found out she was pregnant, she never asked for anything in return. Not help, not money, not recognition." He paused for a long time. The entire room seemed to shrink at the revelation. "But she left something with me before she went, a request, one last gift." The millionaire's clear eyes filled with discreet tears. He pulled the boy close, placing his hands on his shoulders as if he were holding a treasure. "Her request," he said, his voice firm despite the emotion, "was for me to never leave her son alone in this world." The ground disappeared beneath the boy's feet. Some guests put their hands to their mouths. The children, once so full of arrogance, were now petrified. The millionaire opened the document in the envelope, a certificate on old paper, and held it up so that everyone could see it, even without getting closer. This boy's mother was my best friend, and this boy... He took a deep breath, running his hand through the boy's hair with the gentleness of a father reunited with his lost son. This boy is part of my family. The hall erupted in murmurs. People who had never spoken to him before now lowered their eyes in shame. Adults who had ignored him all night now seemed to be begging the millionaire not to see them. The children who had mocked the destroyed sneakers were now hiding their faces behind their parents. The boy, his eyes filled with tears, could barely breathe. He didn't understand everything yet, but one thing was clear: that place, that party, that man. It all had a meaning he had never imagined. The millionaire bent down again, touched the torn sneaker with a serious expression, and uttered the phrase that, from then on, would echo throughout the city and become the most talked about story of future Christmases. If anyone here dares to judge this boy by the shoes he wears, then let him look into his own heart, because those torn sneakers are worth more than all the glitter you have on your feet. The lights on the tree blinked brightly, almost like a silent applause. A thin strand of snow fell through the skylight, sliding through the air, and in that instant, the boy felt something he had never felt before: a sense of belonging. The millionaire put an arm around him and pulled him closer, looking intently at the crowd. This house is also his, and this Christmas is his too. Some guests approached, apologized, and tried to fix what they had broken. But the boy simply took a deep breath, holding the envelope against his chest, feeling the weight and warmth of a new life emerging. The party was no longer the same. The city, the following morning, would also be different, because that Christmas, someone who had been humiliated because of a torn shoe discovered that they were carrying something that no one else there had: a strong heart, a powerful story, and a family that finally recognized him.